Why is it that you can scroll on your phone for 45 minutes without even noticing, but when you sit down to do one important task, your brain immediately starts looking for any excuse to avoid it? That is not laziness, and it is not a lack of discipline. It is the way your brain's reward circuitry is wired. Procrastination is not a moral failure. It is a neurological loop that hijacks you, and unless you know how to break it, you will stay stuck in the cycle. Today, you are going to install a weapon against that cycle. It is called the 90-second laziness override, and once you understand it, you will never see procrastination the same way again. Here is the truth. Your brain runs on dopamine, the neurotransmitter of motivation and reward. But dopamine does not get released when you complete a task. It spikes when your brain anticipates something pleasurable or easy. That is why you can binge on snacks or open social media in seconds, but avoid opening a spreadsheet for days. The brain predicts effort, and if it thinks the reward is uncertain or too far away, it withholds dopamine. The result is paralysis. You sit there thinking about what you should do, while your reward circuitry quietly starves you of the chemical fuel to start. The performance leak is not willpower. It is the delay in dopamine anticipation. Now think about this as if your brain were a computer running outdated software. The default program makes you wait for a guaranteed reward before releasing motivation. But there is a hack. If you can trigger a mini dopamine release within the first 90 seconds of approaching a task, you bypass the lazy loop entirely. That is the core of the 90-second override protocol. It is not about forcing yourself with brute discipline. It is about manipulating your brain's chemistry so momentum becomes automatic. So how do you install it? Step 1. Shrink the battlefield. Do not tell your brain you are about to complete the entire project, finish the whole workout, or clean the whole room. Instead, create a microtask so ridiculously small that the brain cannot protest. For example, if you need to write a report, the microtask is not write the introduction. It is open the document and type one sentence. If you need to exercise, the microtask is not run 5 kilometers. It is put on running shoes and walk out the door. This first step is designed to trick your dopamine system. It reframes the challenge into something so low friction that the brain anticipates quick completion, which means dopamine flows immediately. Step 2. Anchor a physical cue. The human brain responds faster to physical action than abstract intention. If you simply say to yourself, "I should start," the lazy loop wins. But if you stand up, count down from 5, and immediately do the smallest physical piece of the task, you bypass hesitation. Let's make it even more tactical. Keep a preset ritual that always initiates the override. For example, set a timer for 90 seconds, say out loud just 90 seconds, and then begin the micro-task. The brain now locks into a countdown, and the act of starting becomes an enclosed game that it is willing to play. Step 3. Ride the dopamine wave. Here is the critical part most people miss. The reason the 90-second override works is because once you begin a task, your brain releases additional dopamine not from finishing but from progress. Each small piece of action builds momentum. By lowering the entry barrier and using a countdown ritual, you manufacture a first hit of dopamine. That triggers the next and the next. This is why top performers often talk about inertia being their best ally. They are not naturally more disciplined than you. They are simply using chemistry to get into motion faster. Let me give you a high-leverage example. Imagine you have been putting off sending an important email. Normally, you sit there thinking about the weight of it, the risk of writing it badly, the possible consequences, and the brain says, "Let's avoid this." But with the 90-second override, the protocol looks like this. You tell yourself, "I only need to open my inbox and write the first line." You set your 90-second timer. You click compose. You write a single line, maybe just the person's name and a greeting. What happens? Dopamine fires because you made measurable progress. That neurochemical surge pulls you deeper into the task. 5 minutes later, the email is finished, and you wonder why it ever felt so impossible. The same applies to workouts. You do not have to commit to an hour in the gym when your brain is screaming for comfort. You just put on your shoes, set the timer, and move for 90 seconds. Push-ups, jumping jacks, or simply stepping outside. Once your body is in motion, the inertia flips. Your dopamine system switches sides, and now avoiding the workout feels worse than continuing. That is the override. You are no longer dragging yourself uphill. The chemistry is carrying you forward. There is a deeper layer here. Neuroscience shows that procrastination is not about time management. It is about emotion regulation. Your brain predicts discomfort, magnifies it, and then diverts you to something easier. What the 90-second protocol does is prove to the brain in real time that discomfort was smaller than expected. That creates a positive feedback loop. The more you use it, the faster your brain learns that the first 90 seconds kill resistance. Eventually, this becomes automatic. Your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who procrastinates, and you start seeing yourself as someone who acts first and thinks later. But do not confuse simplicity with weakness. This protocol is a direct application of behavioral neuroscience. The anticipation of effort normally suppresses dopamine release. But when you introduce a countdown and an ultra-small action, you alter the prediction system in the striatum, the part of your brain responsible for initiating movement. Instead of withholding energy, the brain rewards you. That is the hidden switch, and once you flip it, laziness cannot survive. I want you to understand this clearly. You are not trying to defeat procrastination with more brute force. You are outsmarting it with chemistry. 90 seconds is not random. It is the time window your brain needs to update its prediction model. Within those 90 seconds, if you act, the brain recalibrates. The task is no longer a threat. It is a source of reward. That is the science behind the override, and that is why it works every single time you use it. Now here is your assignment. Pick one task you have been avoiding. It does not matter if it is a giant project or a small chore. Set a 90-second timer. Tell yourself, I only need to do the smallest piece. Then initiate with a physical cue. Open the file, put on the shoes, start the stopwatch. As soon as you begin, you will feel the resistance break. What you are experiencing is not motivation magically appearing. It is dopamine being released in response to your progress. That is the code in action. And once you know this, you can apply it everywhere. Work, study, training, even conversations you keep putting off. The override is universal because it is built on the wiring of the human brain. The lazy loop has been costing you years of execution. With 90 seconds, you can shut it down and install a new default. Start first, momentum follows. This is how you transform from someone who hesitates into someone who executes without negotiation. Because success is not reserved for the most talented or the most intelligent. It belongs to the person who starts. The 90-second laziness override is your key to that identity. Use it, and you will discover that action is not difficult. The only difficult part was breaking through the first 90 seconds. There is another hidden advantage to this protocol that most people overlook. It does not just get you started in the moment. It actually rewires your relationship with effort over time. Every time you use the 90-second override, you train your brain to associate the beginning of work with a small and immediate reward. The more repetitions you build, the more automatic it becomes. This is how habits form at the neurological level. Your brain is not resisting you anymore. It is anticipating that micro hit of dopamine as soon as you start. What used to be a wall of resistance turns into a built-in craving for momentum. This is why elite performers seem unstoppable. They are not pushing harder than you. They have conditioned their reward system to flip instantly when action begins. Now let's make this even more practical. There are 3 mistakes that kill the protocol if you are not careful. The first mistake is setting a task that is still too big. If you tell yourself you only need to draft a full page, your brain still sees uncertainty. It does not believe you. The microtask must be so embarrassingly small that it feels almost silly. That is the whole point. The second mistake is skipping the physical cue. Do not just think about the task. Anchor it in the body. Movement bypasses hesitation. Whether that is clicking open a file, standing up, or touching the weights, your body becomes the switch. The third mistake is judging yourself after the 90 seconds. Do not evaluate whether you did enough. The win is starting. The evaluation comes later. If you skip this, you destroy the momentum loop. Remember, progress fuels dopamine, not perfection. Think of it like a jet engine. At first, it takes a huge push to overcome inertia. That is the 90-second window. Once the turbines spin, momentum sustains itself. You do not keep forcing it. You ride the thrust. That is how you should view your productivity. Stop trying to brute force your way into hours of deep work from zero. Just fire the engine for 90 seconds and let chemistry handle the rest. Let's apply this to a more advanced domain. Say you are building a business and you keep putting off the hard, uncertain work like calling potential partners or reviewing financials. The lazy loop whispers, "Do it later," because the outcome feels vague and uncomfortable. But with the override, you tell yourself, I will only open the spreadsheet and look at the first number, or I will only dial the number and let it ring once. That micro-action triggers progress, progress releases dopamine, and suddenly the impossible call or analysis feels doable. That is not willpower. That is engineering your neurochemistry for execution. And it scales. Athletes use it before training. Writers use it to beat blank page syndrome. Entrepreneurs use it to make the first move on projects that feel overwhelming. Once you grasp the universal law, that the brain resists large uncertain effort but rewards micro-progress, you can bend it in any arena. That is why this protocol is so powerful. It is not just another productivity tip. It is a master key to unlock action anywhere. There is also a tactical trick to supercharge the override. Pair it with what I call a preloaded reward. That means you set up something enjoyable that you will only access during those 90 seconds. For example, you keep a favorite playlist, a special coffee, or even a chair you only sit in when you start. The brain now anticipates not just the small progress, but also the paired reward. You are stacking dopamine triggers. This makes the override even more irresistible. Over time, the ritual becomes automatic. 90 seconds is no longer a battle. It becomes a doorway your brain wants to open. Now let's address the deeper psychology. Procrastination is often disguised as overthinking. You tell yourself you need clarity before starting, or you need the perfect conditions. But clarity does not come before action. It comes after. The override forces you to step into motion, and in that motion, clarity appears. That is why waiting for the perfect plan is a trap. The 90-second rule destroys that illusion. It proves that imperfect action beats endless hesitation every single time. Let me give you the exact framework so you can implement this today. Step 1. Choose one task you are resisting. Step 2. Shrink it down to the smallest possible version, something that takes less than a minute. Step 3. Set a timer and commit only to 90 seconds. Step 4. Use a physical cue to start. Move your hands, your body, or your environment in alignment with the task. Step 5. Ride the wave. Do not stop at 90 seconds unless you want to. By that point, momentum has taken over. If you stop, it is by choice, not by paralysis. If you continue, you are already winning. What you are doing here is reprogramming your operating system. The old code said effort equals pain, therefore avoid. The new code says effort equals progress, and progress equals reward. That small shift completely transforms your execution. Most people will spend their whole lives waiting for motivation that never arrives. You will not. You will create it on command. And here is the final point. The world does not reward potential. It rewards action. You can be brilliant, talented, or visionary. But if you hesitate, someone with half your skill and twice your speed will pass you. The 90-second override makes hesitation impossible. It locks you into immediate action, and immediate action compounds into unstoppable momentum. That is the edge. That is how you win in a distracted world. So here is what you do next. Right now, as soon as this video ends, pick one task you have been putting off. Do not wait until later, because later is how procrastination wins. Set your 90-second timer, shrink the task, trigger the cue, and move. Feel the resistance break and watch how quickly momentum takes over. Once you experience it once, you will never question it again. This channel is about building your arsenal of mental codes, protocols, and strategies that turn you into a high-performance machine. If you want to keep installing these systems and stacking advantages that most people will never discover, then subscribe to Success Code now. Because every week you will get another protocol to reprogram your brain for speed, clarity, and execution. The 90-second override is only the beginning. The next codes will make you unstoppable.